You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to Grace, invigorating talk radio with Anita, only on LA Talk Radio. Discover, inspire, evolve.
Hey, good evening, guys. This is Grace. Thank you for tuning in with your host, Anita. And once again, we are here tonight to have a wonderful chat. This time, my guest is Matthew Solomon. He is an author, a coach, and an award-winning filmmaker. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Today's conversation is going to be about men, particularly Man School, the book that Matt has written. And as you guys know, there is a problem in the world today among men. So a lot of people, a lot of women complain that men tend to be boys. They tend to be toddlers. They don't grow up. And hence, men end up having a lot of problems in their relationships, in their marriages, in their families, and in society as a whole, in parenting. And Matt, you yourself are a father of 3 and is divorced, has been for like 6 years.
6 years.
So, first of all, welcome. And I'm really excited to talk about your book and all that you've gained over the years from your experiences as a man. And maybe you can enlighten our listeners tonight.
Sure. Well, I hope so. I hope so. It's been a long path, and I'm not done yet. But
Of course
I'm
not.
happy to share.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like for you to share a little bit about your background. What brings you here today?
Well, wow, that's a good question. I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up here, which I was born and raised in LA. I grew up in West Hollywood, which is the real melting pot. You know, when people talk about the United States, it's like every race, religion, sexual orientation, all of that. And so as a white male, I was always very sensitive to how I fit in and noticing that friends of mine didn't have the same opportunities that I did or were treated differently. And so I've always been very sensitive to equality. And so growing up with that, and then I used to dance, and I worked in fashion for a short time, and I always had women who were friends, who were close friends, and I listened to their conversations. I listened to them talk about dating and men and relationships. And through the course of my own journey, I was raised Jewish, and then I got into other spiritual paths, you know, everything from Buddhism to, everything, meditation, yoga, like everything.
Who were some of the teachers that you looked up to?
Oh my gosh. It's funny because in my book, I literally listed everybody who's had a hand in my journey. Rabbi Stephen Robbins was like the first person, and then Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote Conversations with God, which was a very pivotal book for me in my journey. There's a man, Kitabo Roshi Turner, who is a Zen master that I worked with. I trained in the martial arts, so Sensei Marcelo Aguinid. And then, there's people where, I took seminars and have done all kinds of things and was very influenced by Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks.
Still more to discover.
Wayne Dyer. Yeah, and there's still more.
Deepak Chopra.
Deepak.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So when did you discover that relating to women needed a closer look?
Well, in my marriage, I was married for 9 years, and we had the usual, money issues, sex issues, all of that. And we were in various forms of therapy, and I read all the John Gray Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus books.
She made you read them? Or you read
No,
them?
I chose to.
You chose
because I wanted to get better at communication. I wanted to figure it out and to understand. And
what was the biggest complaint your wife had about you?
Honestly, the thing that I remember the most was she said that she didn't feel empathy from me, which, looking back, I feel things very deeply, and I always have, and so I could empathize. It just wasn't getting communicated to her, and that's what was missing, was how to actually let her know that I feel your pain. And I did what most of us men have learned to do, which is I'd get defensive, or I tried to fix it, or any variation so that I wasn't the bad guy, and that just doesn't work. And I did that for 9 years.
Was therapy at all helpful for you guys?
At times, but I mean, honestly, for my own growth, yes. For her own growth, yes. As a couple, I don't really think that it was. I think the work that I've done post-marriage has been far more effective, and has certainly led me to a place where I'm coaching couples now, and
That's awesome.
and I have that experience.
Married couples as well?
Married, yeah, yeah.
That's great. Well, when I was reading your book, because I read the whole book and I loved it, I think the first chapter was about sex. And you talk about how we're not really taught how to be intimate.
No.
So what's the problem with intimacy, you think?
Well, the problem is we don't know to be intimate. We all want that, but we don't even realize that's what we want. Like we think we just want to feel close to somebody, or
I found it funny when you said, all we know is to
rub up against each other until
exactly.
until hopefully
something happens.
Something happens for both of us, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then
But it
that's
fades so quickly.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Do you think it has a lot to do with maybe like really being present in the moment and really knowing what you want?
It has everything to do with that.
Yeah.
It, just being able to sit with somebody and, like breathe with each other and look into each other's eyes and just, that's way more intimate really than. And
not rush into the act of rubbing up against each
rubbing
other.
up against each other. And the thing is, like, we're taught that sex is so goal oriented.
Right.
Like we have to, get in and then get off and then
get somewhere. There's a destination that we're rushing to get to.
And then it's done once you orgasm. And the thing is, Dawn Cartwright, who has been a Tantra teacher of mine, and I think it's from Osho, but she says that, we're taught that sex ends with orgasm, but in Tantra it begins with orgasm, because it's like, you get into this space and then it's like, how long can we stay in this space? And let's just be with each other in this space. And that's where, you don't even have to have sex, and the connection and the intimacy is so profound.
Another thing you talk about in the book is about women needing to be safe, needing to feel safe. Safety is a huge issue, and I do agree that we really want to feel protected. Yeah. In more ways than one. So, can you elaborate on that? Yeah,
I was in a seminar a few years ago taught by Alison Armstrong. She has a company called PAX, which is Understanding Women, Understanding Men. And she did this thing it's a weekend thing, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so Friday morning, she asked the room, there's men and women, she asked the men, how many of you have been afraid for your life in the last year? And some hands went up. And she said, well, what about in the last month? And nobody. What about in the last week? Nobody. Then she asked the women the same thing, how many of you have been afraid for your life in the last year? Every single hand went up. She said, what about in the last month? Most of the hands were still up. In the last week, there were still a bunch of hands. And then she said, what about today? And there were still like 10 or 15 hands that were up, and it was 11 o'clock in the morning. And so that for me was like, and I taught martial arts. I've trained in martial arts. I've taught women self-defense and all of that. And seeing how women have an experience in the world of having to be on guard and having to watch over their shoulder and not feeling safe to say no to a man who wants to buy him a drink because, what if he gets belligerent, or what if he follows her home or something? And just really getting present.
Or even just to walk down the street.
Yeah, or even just to walk down the street. Like,
without being harassed or hit on or looked at, gawked at, you know?
yeah, well, and there was that viral video last year, or the year before, of the woman walking down the streets of New York and getting catcalled and harassed, and guys walking with her and following her, and you know, it's really upsetting, you know, and I feel for women for having to deal with that.
So, from your experience, what are the major differences in the way we think and behave?
Men and women? Well, what we're taught traditionally is that men are very single focused, like we're on task, we can only focus on one thing at a time, and women are able to focus on a bunch of things and do a bunch of things at once, and all of that. I do think we're evolving more, and so there are men who are able to focus on more things. There are women who get very focused on one thing, and so so I think that's the main thing. But it's also we're just socialized differently.
Through the media,
TV,
through music.
Yeah, movies.
Some examples would be.
Well, if you look at so two things. If you look at sitcoms, right? It's usually when it's a husband and wife, the woman kind of runs the show and the man's kind of a doofus, and
Married with Children.
Like exactly, yeah.
Peggy.
Yeah, like Married with Children. King of Queens is a great example. Even what's that?
Roseanne.
Yeah. And so, like, that's in the comedy world. That's what we're told is funny, and that's how we see. And if you look at like I Love Lucy from years ago, Ricky was out, making the money, running the club, and Lucy was kind of the, I don't want to say doofus, but like she was the one who was screwing up and making mistakes, and so that switched. And then if you look at movies, like the ones I grew up on, all of the teen movies like Revenge of the Nerds and things like that, it's all about boys trying to get laid and trying to coerce women into having sex with them, whether it's, hiding cameras in their dorm room, or drugging them or tricking them or something. And it's like, that's what we're taught. We have to trick women into sleeping with us.
That's right. So can you explain the Me Too and the Not All Men movements?
Sure.
At the moment?
Yeah.
And they kind of influenced your book, correct?
Yeah. So my book, Man's School: Relating with Women in the Me Too Era, is really, it's an acknowledgement of women, and it's an education for men, a non-judgmental education for men, and how we got here and what Me Too is, and what we need to know as men, like safety and how to listen and how to approach women and when to approach women, and realizing that we've been socialized a certain way with certain entitlements. And so Me Too originally was started by Tarana Burke back in 2006, and it was an outlet for women to share their stories of rape and sexual harassment and all of that. The Me Too era with the hashtag, which is what I referred to in the book, started last year when Harvey Weinstein was brought up on charges for rape and sexual harassment, and then Kevin Spacey. And so as women, mostly, men did too, as women started to share their stories on social media with the hashtag Me Too, it was a really overwhelming thing.
Right.
And for me, having known women and worked with women, I wasn't shocked by it, and the magnitude of it was incredible. And the men who weren't aware were caught off guard, didn't know what to do, didn't know how to respond, and like most of us, we get defensive, got defensive and would try and justify or try and oh well, that's not what happened, so I would start getting involved in the conversations to help, and so Not All Men, as women got their collective voice and would, post their stories and share their stories, there would be men who were like, well, we're not all like that. And the Not All Men hashtag became sort of a sarcastic response, because the women were like, every man says he's nice. Every man says he's not like that. We don't know You know, and even the nice guys in a moment can have a moment, and it becomes scary. And so that was the not all men hashtag.
I see. That's so interesting. I've never heard of the Not All Men movement, but I did hear of that.
Yeah, it's not so much a movement, but it was, like I said, a hashtag with sarcasm attached to it, to be like, oh yeah, not all men, right? You know?
Exactly. Yeah. So what do you think of the way men approach women these days, like on dating apps and social media and all that? I mean, let's talk about dick pics.
Yeah.
Those are gross.
Yeah.
Uncalled for, uninvited.
Funny story about that. Not that I ever questioned whether I was straight or not, but 1 o'clock in the morning, my friend Amy texted me a dick pic. And I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, oh my God, I thought you were my friend Lindsay. I accidentally sent it to you. So, I get this picture of a penis, like, on my phone at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, I want to vomit right now. This is so disgusting. So yeah, the dick pics. I hear from women a lot that
such a cheap and easy way to try and talk to a woman.
Yeah,
no effort whatsoever.
Yeah, no effort
and no mystery.
No,
a lot of women hate that. It's like, we want the mystery.
Yeah, yeah.
We want to get to know you first. We want to discover ourselves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, not have it like on your phone pop up in your.
Although
face.
if it's really bad, then we'd rather discover ahead of time.
Sure. Well, that too. Yeah.
Have you ever sent dick pics to a woman?
Not unsolicited. I'll say that they were asked for. Yeah.
So what else?
What else? Well, you were asking about how men approach women, and so what I've heard and seen from women is, we're not taught how to communicate and how to approach women. We're taught, we're supposed to have a pickup line. We're supposed to be slick. There's all these pickup artists who have all these programs that teach them, men how to manipulate women. And so, on the dating apps, like, it's almost like it's a last-ditch effort, and it's like, well, I'm just going to try whatever and hope for the best. And so, I know women get a lot of hi or hello or a dick or, or something like that, and there's no real connection or conversation that's attempted. And,
what's a good way to start a conversation?
I mean, it's, if we're talking about dating apps, it's, hi, I'm Matthew, and I saw your profile, and I love that you said that you were into this, and this, and,
What about Facebook and Instagram?
That's
because it's not really a dating site. So
it's not a dating site.
You don't want those messages. At least I don't.
Yeah.
They're really annoying.
Right.
Right. Because it feels like work. Like, I feel bad when I can't answer a message because I'm doing work, but they're coming. I add one person, hello, how's it going? Yeah. Wave, this, that. It's like, can you just disappear into my friends list? We'll talk later.
Right. Yeah, just comment and share my stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, spread the word. Facebook and Instagram aren't dating apps.
Yeah.
So, if somebody is going to approach somebody, you got to be very mindful of that. And, I've had women message me, I've messaged women, but it's always very like, after we've commented on each other's posts for a while and there's some sort of understanding, or we kind of know each other a little bit.
We're going to take a quick break. I've been chatting with Matthew Solomon here, author, coach, the coach for the modern soul, you say.
Yeah. I've been called that, yeah.
Maddie, how can people find you?
Coachwithmatthewsolomon.com is my website, and I'm on Facebook at Coach with Matthew Solomon, and Instagram
Maddie
and
the
Twitter.
Glue?
Maddie the Glue is Instagram and Twitter.
Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll be right back after a short break.
Need a new car? Auto World Leasing and Sales in Glendale has the best deals all year long. Imagine buying or leasing your favorite vehicle today with zero down, zero hassle if you qualify. They'll have you signed and ready to go. Cause you're a rock star and life has never been more exhilarating. Call Auto World now at 818-246-1500. 818-246-1500.
You're listening to Grace, invigorating talk radio with Anita, only on LA Talk Radio. Discover, inspire, evolve.
Welcome back, everyone. Your host Anita here with Matthew Solomon, coach and author of Man School, relating with women in the Me Too era. So, Matt, I wanted to ask you an interesting question. I was reading an article today about how social media and technology has kind of come in the way of men really taking the time to reflect and be with themselves, and as a result, having trouble relating with women and being really present with women. Could that be true?
I think it's true for everybody. You know, I have 3 kids who are on devices all the time. You know, and it's work, and I'm on devices all the time. So, you know, I have to take responsibility for that also.
So could it be that we're in a relationship with our gadgets more than we are with each other?
Yeah.
Kind of sad, right?
It is. It totally is. And, you know, I know back around 2010, 11, towards the end of my marriage, that was my escape. I was on Twitter all the time, and I felt so, like, I felt like I had an obligation to be online and to be interacting with the people on Twitter.
People of the world.
People of the world. they need to hear from me.
Right. Was your wife annoyed with that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, but I'm working, and this is important, and you know, all of that.
Because I remember having those arguments with my husband. It's like, you're not with me. Put your phone down.
Yeah. What are you talking about? I'm right here. I'm right here next to you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So how can we fix that? What's like the bigger solution to all this?
I mean, it's really, it's understanding the need for connection with each other and being willing to put our phones down in a way. And, you know, if I'm with somebody or if I'm on a date, my phone's not out and it's not on the table. It's like in my pocket and the ringer's off and I'm not going to look at it.
I know. I was out with someone the other day. We went to a restaurant. Shout out to Steve.
Yeah, Steve.
He was so happy that I put my phone away. Like, as soon as we got there, I put my phone in my purse, and he's like, "Oh my God, I love you. Thank you so much. And that says so much about you." I'm like, yeah, because it's annoying for me too. Like, I don't want to stare at a phone. I want to like enjoy my food, have a conversation, look at the person in the eye.
Yeah.
You know, really be present. I mean, I think when the phone thing was like really new, people were like obsessed. But I think little by little, people are realizing like, this is wrong. This is not good. This is not good for our posture. This is not good for our health. It's not good for our kids. I mean, I really get upset when I see kids with the phones. Because it could start later. It doesn't need to start at 5, 6, even 7, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a bigger problem, I think, than men.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not just hashtag, not just men.
Not just men. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you've been into films as well. Let's talk about that. So you're also an award-winning filmmaker.
Yes.
So what kind of films do you make?
I make all kinds. My first feature is called Chatter, and it's a horror thriller, and it's coming out next year, and it won a bunch of awards at film festivals, and it's a horror movie that takes place on Skype, and it's seen through the eyes of a Department of Homeland Security. Spy who's not supposed to be watching this couple, but he's watching them and sees that there's this ghost, and you know, stuff happens.
Stuff happens. Awesome.
Yeah.
Have you thought about making a documentary of Me Too? Something of that nature?
I haven't really. It's got to be in the works. I'm sure somebody's been documenting it.
I think that would be cool to hear from the men.
Yeah, that would be. That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about, let's returning back to the book, there is a chapter where you talk about providing, and this is a big issue because I think a lot of men are under the impression that they must just provide financially, and then they forget about all the other ways that they can provide. So like being intimate, being there, listening. So what are some of the ways that men can really, really provide for women, other than
providing a safe space, providing
for her growth?
For you to express yourself how you want to express yourself.
Right.
There's a lot of women who are, coming into your bodies and into your spirit and really feeling your femininity and expressing that. And men can pick up on that and think, oh, she's expressing herself, so she wants to have sex with me, which isn't the case. It's just your expression. And so it's important for men to provide that safe space for you to be able to do that without having to worry about your safety.
Right, exactly. And then you talk about engagement, like how men can better engage with women. So what are some of those ways?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting away from the one-liners and the pickup lines and just being real and introducing yourself and
becoming better listeners.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's a whole chapter on listening that breaks down the steps of how to listen. And I've had men, overwhelmingly, the men who have read the book point to that chapter and they're like, "Thank you so much."
Exactly.
I hadn't figured that out.
Give me an example. Like do a little role play.
A little role play?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
with me?
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay. I'll pretend I'm your girlfriend and I've had a really bad day. My boss was an asshole, Matt, today. He drove me crazy. I couldn't even go to lunch. I was so stressed out. I'm gonna have a panic attack any moment.
Your boss is an asshole, isn't he? And so like you went to lunch and you were stressed out. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was the worst.
And that's like your break time where you're supposed to be able to relax.
Exactly,
but you were stressed
Matt.
out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I was so frustrated.
What did your boss do?
He's an asshole, He was just sitting in his room and chatting away on Facebook and just making me do all the work. And
I hate it when he does that.
I know.
I want Mama to go in and talk to him for you. That's awful.
Would you do that?
I would totally do that for you.
No way.
I feel so bad.
Okay, that makes me feel better
right.
already. That's cute.
Yeah.
So you want the goal is to keep on validating the woman's feelings.
Yeah, well, it's to validate your feelings. It's to get what your experience is or was, and to really get, you just wanted to go to lunch and not have to worry about it, but you were stressed out. So there was something that you wanted to happen that didn't happen.
Right. That's so cool.
How'd I do, by the way?
You did really well.
Okay.
It's like, I'll go kick his ass. That was cute. So we're going to take another break and we'll come back. Thank you, guys.
Need a new car? Auto World Leasing and Sales in Glendale has the best deals all year long. Imagine buying or leasing your favorite vehicle today with zero down, zero hassle if you qualify. They'll have you signed and ready to go. Because you're a rock star and life has never been more exhilarating. Call Auto World now at 818-246-1500. 818-246-1500.
You're listening to Grace, invigorating talk radio with Anita, only on LA Talk Radio. Discover, inspire, evolve.
Hi guys, welcome back. Your host here, Anita, with Matt Solomon tonight, author, coach, and filmmaker. So we've been talking about Man School, the book that Matt has written. And it's a really short book. It's a really quick book, but it's a great book. And I advise that all of you guys grab it from Amazon. It's only like $8.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of men and women can benefit from this book. So
yeah, they've actually
and
been...
thanks for taking the time to write that.
Oh,
that's so cool of you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Is there a part 2 coming out?
There is a part 2. I want to get into, so this episode was really about women and your experience and helping men understand that. I want I'm writing the part 2, which is men and our experience and how we are not taught to talk about things and how we, tend to figure out stuff on our own, and it's all hit and miss, and it's very lonely actually as a man, and it's there's a lot of shame and guilt that we carry around in not knowing how to communicate and not knowing how to make our partners happy.
So in that regard, how can we women help empower men, in your opinion?
Well, acknowledging the stuff that we do well is a big deal. You know, there's a whole thing when I coach couples, the number one rule is to not make each other wrong. So if there's an issue that, like, if you do something that triggers me or upsets me, you're not wrong for doing whatever you did. There's, and I get to be responsible for my own feelings. So it's, not making men wrong, not calling us idiots and morons and and all of that.
God, I'm guilty
all
of
that
doing
stuff.
that
Yeah,
too many times.
Right, and that's how we're socialized. It's, and men are idiots and women are crazy and like and that's how we grow up. What we're taught.
So going back to the book, there was a chapter also about Tantra. What is that? Can you explain what that means, what that word means, and what it is?
Well, okay, so I mean, it's centuries old. It's a practice from India, and the West has made it all about sex, and it's it started with I think it was Sting, like back in the 80s, was talking about like being able to have sex for 6 hours. And they're like, oh, how do you do that? It was yoga and Tantra and all of that. And so Tantra in and of itself is a way of life, and it's about connection and acceptance and being with the person that's in front of you. Yeah. And taking that out into the world. The sex part, which is such a small part, but it's like how we view it in the West, is about helping the woman achieve orgasm and higher states of orgasm and prolonged orgasm and being able to manifest things through that. And for men, it's being able to control our ejaculation and to last longer and transmute the energy, because sexual energy is very powerful. And
yes, and it feeds our creativity.
It does. It feeds our creativity. It feeds
vitality, everything, longevity.
Yeah, and so if we're doing like what we were saying at the beginning, like just rubbing up against each other and then we're done, the energy just goes and it's gone. But with Tantra, you can learn to cultivate it and circulate it and use the energy for your health and your well-being.
Have you tried that yourself?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It
works for you.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Wow.
I mean,
that is so cool. So, going back to like your coaching, what types of coaching do you do?
Well,
what type of coaching do you offer on your website for couples?
Well, okay, so generally I'm an empowerment coach. Like I empower you to do whatever it is that you want to accomplish. I help you see what's in the way of that, get that out of your way, and then get you on the court working towards that. So I work with people one-on-one who, a lot of times people come to me, they're in transitions in their life, or, job sucks, or they're transitioning out of a relationship or dealing with health issues. And so it's support and guidance and getting them to do the things that you want to do that make you feel good. With couples, I'm looking at, do you want to be together? And if you do, how can we achieve that? Yeah, and it's having you partner through things, having you be together through things versus you work on your issues and I'll work on mine. It becomes like us together against the world, creating things together. So it's partnership is what it is.
Are they easy to work with, or is there any resistance?
I mean, there's resistance.
From the men or the women?
It depends. Coming into coming into coaching, usually the women are the ones that contact me and they're gung ho and then it's like getting their husband or boyfriend to come in. But once they meet me and they get like, okay, I know where you've been, I've been there, it's cool, I'm not going to make you wrong, then they get on board pretty quick. And then it's just whatever issue comes up, like, women can be resistant to looking at their stuff too, you know, and men can be resistant to looking at their stuff. It's all, you know, we're raised to survive and protect ourselves, and it's just the reality of it, and it can be really sad when you like get in the feelings of it, where it's like, I just want to be safe, and so I'm going to pull away from you so that I can be safe, but what I really want is to connect with you. But if I connect with you, I'm going to get hurt, or I'm afraid I'm going to get hurt, so I run away. And so it's that push-pull thing. It's like getting the couple to agree to be a safe space for each other. So
Does it involve a lot of talking, or is it experiential?
both.
Both.
I mean, the main thing, which I have them always start with, is to just sit and be with each other, and just not even say anything for like 3 minutes, and just breathe and be with each other and connect. And then once that connection is there, okay, let's talk about how you were feeling, or what was upsetting to you, or what you need. You know, it's really about what you need.
As a coach, do you ever factor in like compatibility or astrology or any of that?
I do.
You do?
I do. I mean, I study astrology, and it's more, I mean, it's, you know, for informational purposes. There's, you know, astrology I've found to be pretty accurate, but when you know what aspects each person is dealing with, then you can address them, versus it just being like some nebulous thing.
Does this happen outdoors or like in an office, the coaching?
No, I pretty much everybody is through Skype or, you know, Facebook Messenger, like video. It's all video. Occasionally I'll meet with people in person, but I have clients all over the world, actually. Yeah.
I just want to make a quick announcement. You people can call in if you have questions for Maddie. The number is 818-602-4929. And if you want to follow him on Instagram and Twitter, it's Maddie the Glue. On Facebook, it's Matthew Solomon. And of course, coachwithmatthewsolomon.com is his website. So we're going to take a quick break and come back. Thank you, guys.
Need a new car? Auto World Leasing and Sales in Glendale has the best deals all year long. Imagine buying or leasing your favorite vehicle today with zero down, zero hassle if you qualify. They'll have you signed and ready to go, because you're a rock star and life has never been more exhilarating. Call Auto World now at 818-246-1500. 818-246-1500.
You're listening to Grace, invigorating talk radio with Anita, only on LA Talk Radio. Discover, inspire, evolve.
Hey guys, we are back with your host Anita at Grace Radio Show. Feel free to check out the past shows on graceradioshow.com. You can always tune in to the live show on my website. There's a live link, and also latalkradio.com as well, channel 2. And we're here with Coach Matthew Solomon tonight, discussing his book Man School. And the next thing I wanted to ask Matt tonight was about toxic masculinity, which he goes into his book. So wanted him to explain that to us. So what is toxic masculinity?
It's basically, you know, when people refer to like the patriarchal society and the, you know, what it means, it's men feeling entitled to women, you know, feeling entitled to like overpower you or to take you, like that you're here for our taking, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the basis of toxic masculinity.
I see.
That we're right and you're wrong and we know better, and you know, all of like the mansplaining and the entitlement.
What is that? What's mansplaining?
Mansplaining. That's when, like, if you were to share something as a woman and I would correct you, and I'd be like, well, actually, what you mean is, you know, like that, that kind of thing. It drives women crazy, understandably.
I know. I think another problem some men have is like feeling that they constantly have to lecture a woman.
Yeah. Well, that's
what it is.
Yeah, that's part of it.
So how do you fix that?
Well, you stop. You stop doing it.
It's easier said than done, because men always sort of want to fix things and want to kind of like school you on everything.
Right.
Well, at least my ex-husband did. And that really annoyed me.
I'm sure.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sure. It's a learned behavior that can be unlearned. I mean, I unlearned it, and you know, there's still time.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How?
Just because I know
Being
it's
aware of it?
being aware of it,
Yeah.
and being willing to let you have your experience and
Yeah.
you
And
know
just shut up about it.
and just know that you need to express yourself and letting you do it
Yeah.
without having to
Yeah.
do anything. Like I know it's way more intimate for me to be like, yeah, I'll go kill your boss
Yeah.
than well, actually you should have just done this and this and that, and then you wouldn't have been stressed if you would have just
Yeah.
been more efficient at work. Why weren't you more efficient? You know, I mean, like I feel
Yeah.
like an asshole even saying that because I know how it comes across.
I think a lot of women want a friendship with men, and that's really hard to come by because there's always the sex factor, the attraction factor.
Sure.
And sometimes we just want to be comfortable around a man and just like open up and bloom and talk about things and be ourselves. But there's always that part where it's like, okay, they start hitting on us and then we have to back up and go back into our cocoon.
Yeah, and put up your walls.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and the friend zone, right?
So I think space is a huge issue. Like being able to give us space
Yeah.
to be who we are without any judgment, any correction.
Yeah,
Any,
and to not take it personally on our part, because we, again.
because I think another thing that we women like to do is we like to think out loud.
Yes.
But just because we say things doesn't mean that's what we want, or we're just kind of like thinking
Like
out
working
loud.
through it.
Yeah, working through
just
it.
Figuring it out. Yeah.
But then a lot of times men will react to that, and then call us crazy and this and that. It's
Yeah,
like,
because you're all over the place.
Yeah,
Why
we're
are you
all over the place.
One
We're
minute
exactly.
you were happy a second ago.
Yeah.
what,
yeah,
what did I do? I did something wrong.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So share some funny examples from your experiences with women that made you think, like, oh my God, I really need to work on myself.
Well, I don't know how funny they are. But, when I was married, like I said, I read all the John Gray Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus books. And I would do everything that the book said, and it just didn't work.
and you'd still be wrong.
Yeah. And I was like, but I'm doing what's in the book. And so that was very frustrating. And so I was always on the search of what am I missing? What am I doing wrong? Which led me to the listening and the understanding, because that wasn't really spelled out. Like I remember Men Are From Mars in the book, he would talk about just grunt so she knows that you're listening. Just, and so at a certain point, it's like, I think you all caught on and you're like, you're not listening, you're just grunting. And it's like, oh shit, now I got to figure
How was your upbringing growing up with your parents? Like,
it was good.
what do you think you got from them, from their relationship?
Well, so my parents are still together. They've been married 49 years.
Wow.
And, that's...
The 49ers.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Cute.
There was went to a cousin's wedding a year or so ago in Texas, and they had everybody get up and dance, all the couples, and they're like, if you've been together more than 20 years, stay 30 years. My parents were the last ones standing.
No way.
Which was awesome.
That's great.
And so I asked them at their anniversary, which was in June, I said, what's the secret? And they both said, you have to really want to be together, and you have to let stuff go.
Right.
And so, my parents do a lot together. They have a flow. They know what their roles are.
Do you have
and-
siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger sister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is she married?
She is.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have 2 nieces.
Mm.
They have two girls, and then I have my 3 kids.
So how does it feel being a daddy full time almost, right, with your 3 kids?
Well, half time. Or, I
half-time,
trade
yeah.
off with their mom.
And then trying to juggle all this stuff.
It just is, people are always like, well, how do you do it? And it's like, as parents, we just do it. It just, we just
You
do
have
it.
no choice.
Yeah. It's hard. It's definitely hard, especially, my daughter is 13 and a half, so I'm dealing with a teenager now, and all the, the mood swings and her hating me because it's easy for her to hate me right now. And so, and it's funny because, like, I wrote this book about relating with women and my daughter hates me, and it's like, whoa, what am I doing? And then the boys are 10 and a half, and you know they're dealing with their stuff, but they're more laid back, at least right now.
Are you trying to teach them how to relate to women?
Oh,
at this
totally.
age?
Yeah, and they've read through the book. Actually, they've seen it, and they've seen me do interviews, and they were asking, like, we had the sex talk because they were like, we know about sex, you know, and giggling, and I'm like, what do you mean sex? So I talked to them about it, and I was like, well, this is what happens, and this is, you know, it's gonna sound weird, but it's really a beautiful thing when two adults are, you know, really engaged in this and in the correct way, and you know, really spelled it out and how the parts work, and so I had that talk, and then one of my boys was like, oh, so it's like the man is the charger and the woman is the outlet, and he plugs the charger in the outlet and the computer powers up and they order a baby. Like,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
I was like, and if you have Prime, the shipping's free, so you're all good.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and
That's
I'm like,
hilarious.
really? That's what you got from this like 20-minute like dissertation on sex and intimacy?
But on a serious note, what would you like for them to learn from you as a man?
For the boys?
Yeah.
I mean, really the
Like, what's
Well,
the
all
most
of it.
important thing?
well, for all of them, it's personal responsibility. It's
Accountability.
accountability, not blaming the other person for, you know, what's going on with you, and being able to say, okay, I did this, or I didn't do that, or this works, or this doesn't, or, yeah, the personal, like I didn't really get personal responsibility until I was going through my divorce, and then I took a seminar, and they were like, "You're the reason your life isn't working," and I was like, "Yeah, right." And then I was like, "Oh shit, okay."
That's kind of true.
Yeah, it's kind of true.
Why does it hit men so late in life? That's kind of what's weird. Late bloomers.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. Well, we're so busy, like building and
Busy
hunting.
getting
and,
busy.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, busy getting busy. Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
So what have you picked up from all these seminars? Like, how have they helped you? And what do you hope to gain out of your like next relationship? Are you dating? Do you want to be in a relationship at this point?
I mean, ultimately, I would love to be in a relationship.
Would you get married again?
I would. It's not not something I have to do.
Yeah.
But I would. I like having a partner. I love being in partnership and creating stuff together, and I would want it to be, you know, with all the intimacy tools that I have now that I didn't have before, you know, being able to like really have that work would be awesome. As my kids are getting older, it's like, you know, I don't need a stepmom. They have their mom. So, you know,
Does it come naturally, those efforts that you make today, those skills that you've acquired? Do they come naturally when you're applying it?
Yeah.
Or does
They
it feel
do.
kind of like forced or uncomfortable
No, you know,
when you have to really be attentive to a woman or respond a certain way?
it's for me right now, for the most part, it's pretty automatic.
Really?
You know, there are times where, you know, under the right circumstances, I'll get stressed out, or if you know, but there's also like a chemistry thing. Like there was a woman that I dated end of last year that like we just drove each other nuts, and when we would argue, and I don't argue anymore, but we would get into arguments, and I'd be like, what's going on here? This is not me. And we just brought that out of each other, and that goes to, you know, chemistry and astrology.
Astrology,
you know,
compatibility.
compatibility.
Do you run charts with women? Like when
Oh,
you're-
yeah.
you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I gotta see her inner planets.
Yeah, totally. I need to know where your Venus is at and what your rising
What your
sign-
Mars is.
Yeah.
No, this is some serious stuff.
It
I think
is.
it's important.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important not to get caught up with that too much,
Yeah,
because
it's-
then you're just looking at planets and
Right.
not the
You
person.
just exactly. I need to find me a yeah.
What about numerology? Are
A
you into that?
little bit. I mean, yeah. It's all
It's all fun.
fun information stuff, you know. I love though, like I do see a lot of 333s and 111s and 1111 of course.
I see
and-
1122 a lot.
Ooh.
Master numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. So that stuff's cool because it's like,
is.
okay, it's they're letting me know that they're here, like that,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's your biggest aspiration at this point in life with all this stuff that you're doing?
Wow, that's just to really be able to make a difference for people on a large scale. I mean, I would love to be doing more interviews and writing more books and then speaking to large.
To Oprah, maybe.
Yeah, to Oprah. I would. Yeah, I'd love
Ellen.
To. Ellen, I would love to be on Ellen because I dance and we could
There
we
you
could
go.
dance.
You
It'd
could
be
do the whole
great.
dance thing.
Yeah. Just come out at the beginning and do the whole dance thing.
That's awesome. So what's your next book about? Like, what are you delving in?
Well, okay, so I foresee a man school series. Like I was saying, there's a book about men. There's a book about relationships. I'm also very passionate about race relations, and so I want to write a book. I've actually started writing it that educates white people on race in the same way that man school educates men on women. And that it's funny because I was actually going to do that first, and then the Me Too thing happened. It's like, oh man, I need to do this now. So that's.
You have some really cool videos on Instagram and Facebook. I caught one today. It was about depression among men and like, the suicide rate. How
Yeah.
it's like, it's really high at this point in time, and we see it happening all over the news with like celebrities. Like, who was last? Anthony Bourdain.
Oh yeah, Anthony Bourdain,
the lead singer of Linkin Park.
Yeah, and then Chris Cornell. Chester Bennington from Linkin Park.
So why do you think this is? Is it because men don't really want to come forward and talk about their problems and really open up to people about their feelings and the troubles that they're experiencing, and they kind of like bottle it up and then eventually, give up?
Yeah, I mean,
Have you ever had that? I mean,
yeah,
have you ever experienced that?
I have.
You have?
I have recently,
Really?
actually. And
How recent?
like
Like yesterday?
Like 2 weeks ago. I mean, if we're gonna be real, yeah, like 2 weeks ago, I was having those thoughts, and it's, we're not supposed to have emotion as men. We're supposed to just tough through it and shake it off and deal with it and grit our teeth and that's life and that's how it goes. And so
Toughen up, suck it
toughen
up.
up, yeah. And so reaching out to people, it takes something because it takes us being vulnerable, and there's a lot of shame in being vulnerable. And where I was a couple weeks ago, it was like I was going through a breakup, I was going through the thing with my daughter, I was going through money problems and all of that, and it was like I've already talked to my friends so many times about this over the years.
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk to them anymore.
Yeah.
And I was very clear that I'm having these thoughts and I don't want to kill myself because of my kids, and I know that it would screw them up.
Everyone.
Yeah, everyone, my parents and my sister, and but so I knew. So then I felt trapped. So then it's like, well, what can I do? I can't do anything. And I have all these tools and stuff, but I was so deep in it. So I called the suicide prevention hotline just to talk to somebody. And really all I needed to do was talk and say everything that I was dealing with.
Get it out. Yeah.
Get it out and cry. And then, that took about 10 minutes. And then the guy was like, "Oh, well, why don't you?" And like he started making suggestions, and I was
Let's
like,
go have coffee.
"Yeah," but I was like, I didn't need the suggestions. I let him do that because that's what they're trained to do. But I really just needed to talk and have somebody hear me. And it's like I'm a coach and I'm public and I've written this book and I do interviews, and it's like, who am I going to tell that I'm suffering like this when I'm not, quote, supposed to be?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And I see women coaches who share, like, they post videos, Facebook Lives, and they're crying and sharing, and it's like I as open as I am, I'm not ready to do that yet. And so, but also I get why whatever Chris Cornell was dealing with, or Anthony Bourdain was dealing with, or any number of one of my best friends lost 2 of his friends last year to suicide. And so I get it. And I don't want him to go through that again either, So it's like, what do we do?
I think the world needs more hugs.
Yes.
Like literally.
Absolutely.
The human touch.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's huge. Yeah. I mean, just
because it's like what we forget is that we're all connected. We're all going through the same thing. We all live in the same world. So it's like I experience the same things that you experience, regardless of the fact that I'm a woman. Like probably even worse, but And I myself have had thoughts like that. Not like killing myself, but I've been like at the brink of like my darkness. Like, not knowing what to do. Yeah. So I think it's just really important to talk it out.
Totally.
Talk it out.
Yeah.
And trust that that's going to help. Because it does. It usually does.
Yeah, and then once you
it's
get
like
through it,
deleting your recycle bin. You just have too many things in there.
Totally. And they're still like the programs are still running.
Yeah.
So you gotta,
there's too many tabs open.
Yeah.
Close the tabs. Restart the computer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a great show. We do have to wrap up, but I do want to point out that you guys could follow Matt at Maddie the Glue on Instagram and Twitter, and then check out coachwithmatthewsolomon.com, his website, and also Matthew Solomon on Facebook.
Yep.
And Matt, do you have any questions or comments for me?
No, just thank you so much. This has been really great, and I wish we could chat longer.
We will after the show.
Okay. All right.
So just to wrap up, I feel like the solution for men from this conversation is to really take the time and reflect, have more me time.
Yeah.
So that they can come into terms with their desires, what they really want, and how they can authentically connect with women, as opposed to just like being fast and furious about it.
Sure. I mean, read the book. It's only 72 pages. It's quick, and that will give you, a place to stand, and then find people that you can talk to and get to know what you need and what feels good for you and what doesn't. And call me up and I'll coach you.
Exactly. Get in touch with Matthew, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you.
It's been a fun conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Cool.
Thanks.
You're listening to Grace, invigorating talk radio with Anita, only on LA Talk Radio. Discover, inspire, evolve.